On a foggy night in May 1914, one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history unfolded in the icy waters of Canada's St. Lawrence River. The Empress of Ireland, a luxurious ocean liner carrying 1,477 passengers and crew, departed Quebec full of hope and dreams, bound for Liverpool. Aboard were families, immigrants, actors, and Salvation Army delegates, all embracing the excitement of the journey. The ship was a marvel of its time, offering first-class elegance, second-class comfort, and third-class festivity. Yet, as the Empress sailed into the night, an invisible enemy crept across the water. Thick, blinding fog that would soon spell doom. Shortly after midnight, the fog swallowed the river, forcing Captain Henry Kendall to halt the ship and sound the foghorn, a desperate attempt to avoid collisions in the murky void. Meanwhile, the Norwegian freighter Storstad, loaded with 10,000 tons of coal, moved cautiously upriver, its reinforced bow designed to plow through ice and anything else in its path. Suddenly, out of the mist, the lights of the Empress emerged, horrifyingly close. The crew of the Storstad scrambled to reverse engines, but it was too late. With a sickening crunch, the freighter's bow tore into the starboard side of the Empress, creating a gash that would doom the ship. Chaos erupted as 60,000 gallons of water per second poured into the hull, flooding boiler rooms and lower decks with alarming speed. Passengers jolted awake, scrambling to escape the dark, tilting corridors. Lifeboats were lowered in haste, but the ship's violent list made launching them nearly impossible. Some tipped over, throwing passengers into the freezing river, while others were crushed as the Empress groaned and tilted further. Below deck, many passengers were trapped by rising water and slanting passageways. On the deck above, those who managed to escape faced frantic crowds and frigid winds. The scene was one of desperation as parents passed their children to strangers and crew members fought to maintain order. In the chaos, stories of extraordinary heroism unfolded. Ronald Ferguson, the 20-year-old radio operator, remained at his station, sending SOS signals until the very last second before being thrown into the icy river. Even after being rescued, he continued aiding others. Captain Kendall, thrown from the bridge on impact, tirelessly rowed survivors to safety, driven by the haunting screams of those still trapped. Yet, for every act of bravery, there were heartbreaking losses. Entire families were wiped out, including 167 members of the Salvation Army who had been on their way to a conference in London. Only 4 children from third class survived, a tragic testament to the rapid sinking and the lack of time to save lives. Within just 14 minutes, the Empress of Ireland was gone, leaving behind a haunting silence, broken only by the cries of survivors clinging to wreckage in the freezing river. Out of the 1,477 people aboard, more than 1,000 perished, making this disaster one of the deadliest in maritime history. The Storstad, despite being the vessel that caused the collision, assisted in the rescue, pulling as many survivors from the water as they could. Still, the scene was a grim one, lifeless bodies floating alongside debris, a stark reminder of the tragedy that had just unfolded. In the aftermath, blame was quickly assigned. An official inquiry found the Storstad at fault, accusing its captain of failing to steer clear of the Empress. However, questions lingered about Captain Kendall's decisions and whether the Empress was adequately prepared for such emergencies. The disaster briefly dominated headlines, but just months later, the outbreak of World War I overshadowed the tragedy, leaving the story of the Empress of Ireland to fade into obscurity. Today, the wreck lies at the bottom of the St. Lawrence River, a silent tomb for over 800 unrecovered souls. Its story, overshadowed by larger disasters like the Titanic, is a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the courage that emerges in moments of unimaginable crisis. Though forgotten by many, the legacy of the Empress of Ireland endures, a chilling testament to the perils of the sea and the human spirit's resilience in the face of tragedy.